Congressman Hill. It is my honor to introduce the Congressman, and please welcome Congressman Hill for the presentation of the military awards to Master Sergeant Hill. And I'll talk a little bit about it after he makes the presentation. We're not going to have him sit and hold up the heavy presentation, but I would like for Congressman Hill to give us some words before the presentation, please. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
What a privilege to be here, because in my 8 years of service in the House, there's nothing that means more to me than to have the chance to thank a veteran for their sacrifice and service to our country. And it's even more important today than it was maybe in our generation, where we were all surrounded by men and women who wore the uniform in service of the country for many decades, and our youth today don't always have that experience. So anytime at church or at school or in community where we can talk about the importance of our United States military, the men and women who put on that uniform, the sacrifices that they make, it's critical. So we'll inspire hopefully a young person by virtue of a newspaper article or by a photograph or something shared on social media that takes the incredible service of our honoree today and shares it. And maybe they become inspired. In my service in this district, there are happy times. Medal presentations are one of those. Calling those young seniors in high school and saying that they've been accepted for nomination to one of our military academies is an amazing feeling, because it demonstrates to me that this generation is just as equal in defending the Constitution, loving our country, serving their fellow man by being willing to do that. And they, you can hear the shrieks and shouts on the other end of that phone when that word is passed. So I want to say to Master Sergeant Gill, thank you for those 22 years. Thank you for being an African-American serviceman during the 1950s and 1960s when that wasn't very easy. A lot of people came home in 1971 and 1972 and nobody said thank you. It was so emotional just a few years ago in I guess 5 years ago or so now, when we had the end of 50th anniversary at UALR for everybody who served in Vietnam. And there were a lot of people who were at that event who'd never been told thank you. And we know of our Vietnam era vets who didn't get the care they deserved from the VA either. So when we have a chance to say thank you to you, we're thanking a whole generation of men and women who served in Korea and Vietnam, particularly if they were African American, who did not get the thank you they deserve when they came home. So our Master Sergeant, though, is a rock star. He's a rock star in his service. He set the standard, not only in going to helicopter school, but by becoming a recruiter. If you're a recruiter, you're a role model. And more of our young people need role models, and he was one 60 years ago, and I bet he's one still today. Right? Nothing better than to set the standard high. So at age 93, I connect, because my dad served at the end of World War II as a mechanic on B-17s, and then he went to college after World War II, and his dad said, you know, you've got a little bit of a behavior problem. So my grandfather instructed him that he should be an ROTC when he finally made it to college. So when he did that, he came out of that ROTC and he went into Korea in the Quartermaster Corps in the U.S. Army, and died in October at age 96. So I had him 65 years in my life, and what a blessing. But it was always about being that role model of serving country, and I think about him as I see you today. and thank you for those decades, not only in uniform, but all the decades since of being a pastor, being a husband, being a dad, being a role model, setting a high standard. So what better thing to do today than to present this great American with the culmination of that career in photograph and medal for all those services and successes in recruiting, in Army air operations, in service in Korea, Vietnam. This is an amazing, is this not an amazing track record, Colonel?
This is awesome.
You know, colonels are kind of a big deal. But there's no colonel that made it to colonel without a top NCO.
Here, here.
And our military is built on our non-commissioned officer corps. Built on it. No other military, maybe outside the United Kingdom, Britain, England, has something like that to the extent that we count on it. And when you see failures by foreign armies, you ask analysts, how come the Russians are so bad? They're good at killing people, but how come they're so bad as a military? You know the answer? They don't have non-commissioned officers. They don't have the discipline. They don't have the training. They don't have the loyalty. They don't have the team spirit that top creates in that company or in that unit or all the way up to the top of the food chain. So when you look at these medals, you'll recognize that this man helped not only be a role model personally, but think of all the people that he touched that became better people because of his senior enlisted leadership. So shall we present these medals?
Absolutely.
All right.